You ever witness two people who are stuck in the same cycle and don't even notice it for real? Kind of like the makeup breakup couple, or the friend who maybe dates the same type of person over and over again, and everyone else can see the cycle except them. Yeah, well, that is exactly what the movie One of Them Days was giving. It was so relatable, I just had to talk about it because it's easy to watch it and be like, oh, SZA's character obviously was just messing everything up. But I think we can go deeper.
Oh my God, bitch, I thought I killed you. We need our money ASAP. Come on.
Because the truth is, they're both caught in a loop. And throughout the movie, until they figure out how to break this loop, they keep losing everything that they win. I know. But what was keeping them stuck? Let's talk about it in this Movies with a Message. I'm really like the evil villain in a movie with my spinny chair and my dog in my lap. I've been waiting for you. One of Them Days is a chaotic comedy that dropped in January 2025, and the title is a little bit too accurate. Okay? Dreux, played by Keke Palmer, and Alyssa, played by SZA, are having a little bit more than just one of them days. Alyssa, the free spirit eclectic type, gives her lame live-in boyfriend the rent money, and he blows it all and then vanishes. Okay, already off to a crazy start. And then their landlord is like, hey, y'all have till 6 p.m. to pay this rent before I leave all your stuff out on the curb. And all of this is happening while Drew's preparing for an interview for a management position that she's supposed to be at by 4 p.m. So naturally, things start falling apart. Spoilers, by the way. This is an analysis, all right? So they start hustling. They find vintage Jordans hanging from a light pole, and they're able to flip them for cash. Problem solved, right? No. They lose the cash again. So at this point, it's not just bad luck. This is a pattern. It is a karmic cycle playing out in real time. And the more chaotic the day gets, the more the cycle is just begging to be broken. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. And the longer I watched it, the more I was like, this movie is way more than just two friends trying to pay the rent. To me, it seemed like a message on how the roles we play in our relationships show up in multiple parts of our lives, like our money. And that's where things get messy. So I saw this movie on Sunday, and since then I've seen exactly 2 reviews. Both of them were along the lines of, this is a movie about the dangers of having a male-centered bestie. And yeah, that's valid. But I also feel like we got bigger fish to fry, because the way I saw it, I saw that both of them were contributing to this loop. But to really see it, we got to start back at the beginning. So Dreux, hardworking, very structured. I saw that Virgo necklace, okay, girl. But she works her butt off at this diner. She's more capable than the manager at this point, and everybody knows it. Okay, she was running like a well-oiled machine. And so early on, I feel like I clocked that this character proves her worth through her hard work and through doing more. But as soon as she hops in the car with Alyssa after work, they're having a conversation and she's doubting whether she's even a fit candidate for the job she got accepted to interview for. Because they want a degree, she's some credits away, you know the deal.
Sure that the store was ADA compliant.
Damn. Should have had about 10 norms by now.
Girl, I gotta work my way up. People at this level have degrees.
I mean, in my opinion, if they're interviewing you, they think you're capable, but that's just me. But we can see in her character early on that she is like a huge proponent of playing by the rules. Alyssa, on the other hand, is quite the opposite, even when it comes to choices like playing with her lactose intolerance.
God heals all things.
Girl, you're lactose.
Tummy's included. Tummy's included.
She's a very much give it up to God, the universe will guide me type of spirit. Very artistic and go with the flow, but maybe go with the flow a little bit too much, because Alyssa has a tendency to avoid responsibility, aka giving the job of paying the rent money to her loser boyfriend. But in this dynamic, we can kind of see that Dreux enables Alyssa by becoming Mrs. Fix-It and cleaning up her messes, which then can kind of justify Alyssa's belief in her own actions, and she can keep acting as if her actions don't have consequences, basically. That in the back of her head, I know somebody will always catch me when I fall. But Alyssa also enables Dreux by constantly being Drew's emotional safety net. Alyssa soothes her fears, hypes her up, and gives her that emotional validation that she craves, but never really absorbs. They mirror each other's shadow characteristics, which is like the part of themselves that they're not really in touch with. And even though they need what the other has, they don't really know how to implement it. So their cycle goes like this, right? Alyssa makes a reckless decision, and then Dreux gets ready to clean it up. But Dreux doubts her capabilities, and Alyssa pours into her, hypes her up, tells her she can do anything. And then Dreux executes the tasks, feels better temporarily because she's gotten the opportunity to prove that she's capable, but that self-worth never really internalizes. And then Alyssa never internalizes the lesson and repeat. Yes, Alyssa's chaotic and Dreux is practical, but they also feed each other's coping mechanisms. Alyssa makes Dreux feel needed and important, and Dreux is Alyssa's safety net. And neither of them realizes that they're just going in circles. They lose the money, get it back, and lose it again, not just because of bad luck, but because they finally need to see this cycle that keeps repeating. But at what part of this crazy ass day does this cycle finally start breaking? Because you know at some point that loop has to unravel. You would think it would be when they came up with the idea of the pop-up to sell Alyssa's paintings, where Alyssa can finally see the physical value in her creativity and Dreux can let her talents shine. But it actually starts way earlier than that, and we need to talk about it. It starts when Alyssa climbs that light pole. Alyssa sees some vintage Jordans wrapped around the telephone pole and comes up with the bright idea to climb up there, grab them, and flip them for some cash. And it seems so simple, but that is the real first unraveling of that cycle that they're in. Why? Because she finally comes up with a plan and starts to actually execute it. And it's reckless and chaotic, but she gets the shoes. And Dreux lets it happen. She tries a little bit to shut it down, but ultimately lets Alyssa do her thing. She gives her room to try, right? Which allows Dreux to step into a different role, not as the fixer, but as an active participant. And from that point on in the movie, we can start to see them unwind themselves. And it's so good because a lot of the time when people are stuck in these karmic cycles, rarely do they ever evolve at the same time. Alyssa starts taking more agency and Dreux starts letting go of control. But the real question is, if this is where their karmic loop starts unraveling, why do they end up losing the money again? And I wondered this for a while too, until I remembered there's always a breakdown before there is a breakthrough. You feel me? And in the movie, they regress hardcore. They get the money, Dreux gets to her interview, and then Alyssa gives in to temptation. She's just got to prove to this man that she's better off without him. Takes a picture of herself at the fruit cart with a man who has a job, and then Big Booty Bernice comes to beat her up, leaving them both penniless and beat up. A moment of temptation turned into a mirror that was held up to their relationship, forcing them to see what it really is. Because now they're forced to see that this dynamic isn't just off, it's destructive, and it's holding them back. In the movie, like, that is how you know their cycle is breaking, because they finally say it out loud. The time that it explodes in their face, which is so real, because how many times have you tried to change and then hit a hard backslide? A lot. We've all done it. But you know, it's not because you haven't grown, right? Even though you might beat yourself up and tell yourself that. No, it's just the last stitch effort of your old self trying to come back. That last desperate attempt of it trying to stay in control. There's a word for that. I saw it on TikTok. What is it? They said it in regards to our government right now. Extinction burst? I think that's what it's called. Where something knows it's on the way out, so it gives one last attempt at control. That last loss of money did its job. It exposed them. After that, going back to their old dynamic wouldn't be just like, oh, that's just them. It would be a conscious, unhealthy choice. Once the cycle is fully exposed, they have to stand in the wreckage of their old habits. Literally, their stuff is out on the curb. They know they can't go back, but they also don't know how to move forward. Then the new girl on the block, Bethany, the white girl who moves to the jungle, sees them sitting out on the curb, and she's like, ooh, yes, yard sale? And they're like, yeah, sure, Bethany, yard sale. And she asks to buy one of Alyssa's paintings. Now, Alyssa's all broken and defeated, and she's about to give it away for free when Dreux steps in, and she's like, $350. And Bethany's like, easy. deal. And this moment sparks a shift because it allows Alyssa to see that there is value in her creativity and monetizing it. And Dreux starts to make a flip from protector to empowerer. Instead of shielding Alyssa, she pushes her forward. But Alyssa steps into it. She goes from being somebody who was about to give it away for free to somebody that owns her worth. And they build together. Drew's not just running the show herself. They organize the pop-up, use their resources and Bethany's resources to invite people, and it is a success. Alyssa gets asked to feature her art at more pop-ups, and in a weird twist of events, Dreux impresses her interviewer. But then there's this final test where King Lolo, the owner of the vintage Jordans, shows up asking for money for his shoes. And we know in their dynamic, normally Dreux would fix it, maybe sacrifice something. Except this time, it's Alyssa that saves them. And not in a chaotic, reckless kind of way. Through smart, forward-thinking action. And Dreux was so happy for her. We were all happy for her. It was such a good movie. But a lot of people think breaking a cycle, or ending an old habit, or changing a relationship dynamic is like flipping a switch. You decide to change and then boom, suddenly you're a new person. But it's actually really messy. It's actually non-linear. Because when we're so deeply ingrained and emotionally invested in these old cycles, sometimes we have to literally be pushed out of them. Alyssa and Dreux practically had to lose everything, and their old dynamic practically had to implode in their faces before admitting that it really wasn't working. And while I feel like a lot went wrong, it really wasn't the friendship. It was just the dynamic. And I think it's really important to see that when both people are willing to evolve, the relationship doesn't have to end. It just has to shift. They just had to meet each other in a new way. One where Alyssa actually has agency and Dreux doesn't have to carry everything alone. And if we're really going to take it there, a lot of these things actually happen on an external level for us because they're happening internally. We all have an inner Alyssa and we all have an inner Dreux, and they can get out of balance. And surprise, surprise, it affects our money just like it did in this movie. But if you want to learn more about that, you can find that in the bonus video on Patreon. Until then, thanks for watching. And I'm sending love and healing your way. Bye. Can you please go somewhere? I love you so much, but you are in the way. You want to come up? You want to come up? Okay.